Good evening and welcome to this podcast featuring how Adolf Hitler was able to gain and maintain power in Germany, in particular Hitler's oratory and the popular appeal of Nazism. Adolf Hitler was the leader of the German Nazi Party and came to power as the Chancellor of Germany in 1933 and remained there until his eventual downfall in 1945 at the end of World War II. Hitler was able to gain and maintain power in Germany through his persuasive personality as well as his excellent oratory skills in making Nazism appeal to all people throughout the nation. When people look back on the life of Adolf Hitler and his reign throughout Nazi Germany in the early 20th century, they picture him as a greedy, vile, inhumane monster who started World War II in an attempt to exterminate every Jew on the planet. However, there is more to Hitler's life than just the violence and the egotistical political views. Many people choose to ignore Hitler's troubled childhood, along with his excellent oratory skills, which drove him to international infamy. Hitler entered politics in 1919 with Anton Drexler, shortly after he was discharged from the Bavarian army whom he fought with during World War I. Drexler was the leader of the political party who was anti-Semitic, anti-capitalist, and anti-Marxist. Shortly after Hitler joined the party, it was named the National Socialist German Workers' Party, also known as the NSGWP, otherwise known as the Nazi Party. Hitler personally designed the new banner for the party, which consisted of the famous swastika in a white circle on a red background. Hitler began speaking to large audiences about the new political party, conveying his beliefs to the crowd of people. During his presentations, he had trucks filled with party loyalists circling the crowd and rolling them up, handing out leaflets and waving swastika flags. According to the source A Rise to Power by the Nazis, Hitler and his supporters staged mass rallies, which included flashing lights, marching music, flags, and a powerful atmosphere which people liked and felt empowered by. Although the author of this source is unknown, it still provides a lot of useful information which corroborates with all other available sources. Hitler quickly gained a high profile by speaking out about contentious issues such as hatred of the Treaty of Versailles, along with his intense dislike of the Jews. In 1921, due to an increase in public support following his speeches, Hitler became chairman of the party and was granted absolute powers. Soon after, Hitler began drawing even larger crowds to his speeches, in which he blamed the Weimar government for all the nation's economic shortcomings, turned people away from the Weimar government, even more while at the time same growing his own party's support. Although it was impossible to do so, Hitler had the ability to reach out to individuals and make them believe he could solve their problems, demonstrating his persuasive oratory, which greatly aided him in his rise to power. By doing this, he gained support from the NSDAP, as well as successfully turned the German public against the current government. In 1923, after amassing even further public support, Hitler and a group of NSDAP loyalists stormed and attempted to overthrow the existing Bavarian government, taking over a police station and declaring that a nationwide revolution had begun. In the ensuing firefight that followed, 16 members of the NSDAP were killed, along with 4 police officers. Hitler was taken to the People's Court in Munich and charged with high treason. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison. However, due to public support and despite the objections of the state prosecutors, he was released after just serving 1 year of his sentence. While in prison, he wrote his autobiography, Mein Kampf, which provided to both Hitler's supporters and enemies to fully realize his motives, as well as the justification of his beliefs. Hitler appeared to have mesmerized the nation. He had friends in all the right places. The NSDAP were anti-communist, which appealed to all the rich people in Germany, who controlled the radio and newspapers, making it easier to spread his propaganda. One of Hitler's main supporters was Hugenberg, a wealthy businessman who almost exclusively owned all the cinemas in Germany, along with hundreds of local newspapers. There is no doubt that the extensive advertising used by Hitler and the Nazis allowed him to appeal directly and persuasively to all sections of the population. One of the ways Hitler campaigned for support was to point out all the flaws of the current government, blame Jews, homosexuals, disabled people, and gypsies for all of Germany's problems, and then tell everyone that he could do better. Many small political parties allied themselves with Hitler, which worked greatly in favour of the Nazis, making it much easier for them to be elected in the upcoming elections. This successfully granted Hitler and the Nazis massive party size and influence throughout the nation. After two economic crises, the people had nothing to lose by supporting the Nazi Party and fully expected Hitler to follow through on his promises to fix the German economy and once again make Germany a global superpower to be feared and respected. Because Hitler had never been in government, he had never before been associated with failure, which automatically gave him an advantage over the existing government. Hitler employed many techniques in his speeches, such as portraying the Nazi ideals as not just that of the party, but that of any loyal German citizen, and that it would be a crime to go against them. This won the support of many German patriots who wanted to be involved in the nation's development. Hitler also appealed to German women by making them feel empowered to believe they were just as important to the German cause as men. This was considered to be revolutionary at the time because up until then, women had always been viewed and treated as inferior to men in almost every way. In one of Hitler's speeches he quoted, "The National Socialist movement sees that a man and woman as equal bearers of Germany's future. It asks, however, for more than in the past, that each should first completely accomplish the tasks that are appropriate to his or her nature." Because women felt empowered by Hitler's persuasive speeches, they more readily pledged their support to the Nazi Party and its aims. In another speech promoting Nazism, Gerhard Scholz-Klink, the head of the Nazi women's organization, quoted the following: "We know and believe that all German women will accept this calling over time if we clear the rubble left by a mistaken age. More and more faithful helpers will join our ranks, working cheerfully and strongly, as we have done in the past." In this speech, she first points out the negatives of the previous government, before showing the positives of Nazism. She also associates terms such as rubble left behind and mistaken age with the Weimar government, whereas she uses terms such as faithful helpers along with working cheerfully and strongly with the Nazis to further persuade the German people to join their cause. Hitler and the Nazis successfully made everyone in Germany unite behind them, and made them feel connected, as if they all had to do their part to ensure the success of the nation. In 1932, Hitler was appointed as Chancellor of Germany through a series of elections and the decline of the Weimar government. His cunning and leadership enabled him to imprison over 4,000 communists and opposition supporters, giving him full control over the legislative and executive branches of government. After the death of President von Hindenburg, Hitler was also named head of state and quickly moved to stamp out all remaining opposition, as well as change any legislation left, allowing him to be removed from office. Hitler also introduced the Enabling Act of 1933, which granted Hitler plenary power and essentially gave him the power of a dictator. This act was originally intended to last for only 4 years, however it ended up continuing throughout Hitler's reign all the way up until his death. This only emphasizes the persuasiveness grip Hitler had held over the rest of the government. By the end of 1934, Hitler had supreme control over Germany and was given the title of Führer and Reichsstatthalter, which translates into English as leader and chancellor of the Reich. Hitler spent the following several years establishing alliances as well as massively expanding the economy and workforce, bringing Germany once again in contention with the rest of the world's superpowers, such as Britain and France. During this time, the average German citizen was working around 47 to 50 hours per week, aiming to improve infrastructure throughout the nation by building dams, railroads, and improving the existing roads and autobahns throughout the country. The promises Hitler had made years previously to do with the fixing unemployment and once again making Germany a powerful nation were finally being fulfilled. Hitler single-handedly boosted Germany from 2 economic depressions to one of the most powerful nations in the world by being uncompromising when it came to the work ethic of the German people. Many citizens were working 15-hour days in back-breaking conditions, However, the people still loved Hitler more than ever. Even though they themselves were not being treated fairly, the values of patriotism drilled into them by Hitler, and seeing their nation thrive, was much more important to them. Unemployment fell from 6 million in 1932 down to a minuscule 1 million people in 1936. However, the average wage was similar to that seen during the Weimar Republic era, and the cost of living had risen by 25%. Hitler established strong alliances with Japan, Austria, and Czechoslovakia, who, in the coming years, would become Germany's allies during World War II. Hitler's many alliances also aided in his maintaining of power due to his wide range of supporters, both domestically and now internationally. In conclusion, Hitler's rise to power and ability to maintain it was contributed to heavily by his oratory and in uniting the German people behind the Nazi ideals, encouraging patriotism and denouncing as well as persecuting Jews, gays, gypsies, along with the Weimar government by blaming them for all the nation's problems over the years following the First World War. Hitler made the people feel good about themselves by giving back them a powerful nation, successful economy, and brought unemployment to the lowest seen since the First World War. Thank you for tuning in for tonight's segment, and we hope you join us tomorrow night for our discussion on World War II.